President Joe Biden is working to convince the country that with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
They call my plan Bidenomics.
Oh, God.
I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
But isn't more than
coming from a
65%
dementia
of
man, that
Americans
doesn't
think
give me a
the
lot of
country is headed in the wrong
security.
direction. And here's the reality for some voters we talked to here in Wisconsin this week.
We have noticed a dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of people out here homeless because they can't buy food.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 7-8% versus 2 to 3. It's just you can't afford a house anymore.
Inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight, the #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Richmond,
they're gonna
North
use this
of Richmond.
guy. Capitalists are shameless. They're using this guy.
Virginia, named Oliver Anthony.
None of these people
His
have
lyrics
policies that
speak
are
of
going to help.
alienation, of deep frustration with the
What I
state
am
of
noticing
government and of
about
this
the
country.
GOP debate, at least this
Washington,
one,
D.C. is about 100
this
miles
is a lot of
north
fanfare.
of Richmond.
Like the other on this on, they don't do all this. They don't do this stuff. This is
Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know.
These are the architects of the neoliberal nightmare. These are the apprentices of the neoliberal
they're trying to
nightmare.
act like they're for what this guy is talking about.
No, they're all careers politicians. Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, all of them. They don't care about people. Politicians are not people, everyone. And if they're Democrat or Republican lawmakers, they don't have. Okay, let's see what
decline is not inevitable. It's a choice.
Oh, Jesus.
We need to send Joe Biden back to his
Opening
basement
remarks.
and
It must be
reverse
opening remarks.
American decline. And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong. We also cannot.
We can't afford it, and then you say something about Hunter Biden. That makes me. That tells me you're not serious about fixing the problem you're talking about.
In this situation,
Nope. The
and
comparison.
finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country.
No, you're not.
He's basically saying we will kill the climate in this country. You hear me? We will. That's what he's basically saying. We want to participate in it too.
Actually, I actually want to push back a little bit. I'll push back. Hold on.
Governor Christie,
They are.
you agree with Governor
They are.
DeSantis just said there, and why would you be better
Go ahead.
on the economy than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here,
That's
that
an
we
ask
would
us any
agree
question.
predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's the difference.
Energy
The
field.
difference is
They're going to
work and
export
make
that
sure
energy to other countries. The American citizen will not get that. They're going to open up a lot more, but it's not going to lower the prices. That's what they'll do.
get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate in 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience of doing it. Now, I was elected as a conservative Republican in a blue state with 61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making,
you
brought them
closed
around
bridges.
to our point of view. We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward. Truth and accountability are the things we need to do to fight waste. And I'd say the last thing is this, Brett. We cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly.
Christie, you're at 3.3%, buddy.
Governor had the
You're
second lowest
irrelevant.
credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what happens when you inherit a blue state that has done that. But when you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state, We cut debt in that state, debt that had been left to us by 3 Democratic gubernatorial predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously. And what you also saw us do was to cut the unemployment rate in half. It was over 10% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments to public employees to make sure that taxpayers were not being soaked by a public employee union system that was killing
This isn't all you can eat buffet. Calm down.
Governor Scott, Tim Scott, Senator Scott, excuse me. The
No
song
discussion about how the
also
workers
goes
are doing,
after
though.
welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending. This was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator, though, for 10 years. So what have you done to rein in the increasing size of government?
Well, thank you for the question. Over the last several years, I've had an opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off in Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses.
Trickle-down economics
I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family.
They still repeat the myth of trickle-down economics, man. This is ridiculous.
We can't spend it. That's good news for the American people.
Okay, but just to follow up, you did, during the Trump administration,
He didn't answer the question. He just said his prepared line.
And just so you know, he voted with Biden 14.7% of the time.
Administration. That's a lot of money.
There's no doubt that during the Trump administration, when we were dealing with the COVID virus, we spent more money. But here's what happened at the end of our time in the majority. We had low unemployment, record low unemployment, 3.5%.
So she pointed out how he voted for packages under Trump.
70-year low for women.
I guess
African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians had
that's too much.
All-time low.
You see how he's backpedaling?
Was at 2%.
These are packages to
Under
help
Joe
people.
Biden,
He's backpedaling
we've seen the
on
exact
this.
opposite. We've seen inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're 38 years old. You've said that you only voted in 2 presidential elections before this moment, this political race.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage?
Oh, geez.
I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apoorva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians
You're not an outsider
who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something. To our vision of what it means to be an American.
Too bullshit.
I know it is. Everyone's going
this
wild.
guy, Vivek, he's like
over to a new generation to actually fix the problem.
He's the
That's why I'm in this
GOP's
race, and we're just getting
Andrew
warmed up.
Yang. That's
No. Quick, I just want to say to Vivek, the way I would describe him, he looks like the clean-cut version of what Anthony Weiner used to be. So I think he's a GOP version. Mark my word. All these people running for office all have skeletons in their closet.
Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood Mike Pence's comment, but I'll let you all parse that out. For me, it's pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do with focus, and I'll deliver on it. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality of the fact of the matter is...
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike, actually. We're just going to have some fun tonight. And the reality is, you have a bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs last week. The real choice we face in this primary is this. Do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side of the American revolution.
I've got to address
rather than
we're going to take control back here. I think unquestionably I am the best prepared,
Oh,
the
God.
most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the Congress of the United States. I led Indiana where we balanced budgets and had a AAA bond rating.
They don't like you
when I was
there.
governor. And as vice president of the United States, we spent funding to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration. And then
This section is essentially them advertising the failed ideology of trickle-down economics.
In this race, to say that we've got to deal with the long-term national debt issues. You got people on this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America.
You said American
put
cities
our
are not your
nation back
concern.
on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress and as governor.
Mr. Vice President.
How exactly is Mike Pence supposed to win against Trump when he has to run on Trump's record as president?
Guys.
I was a House conservative leader before it was cool. I
Oh, my
pushed the
God.
Deficit Reduction Act. It was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States when I was the leader of House conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience.
So here's the thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. We left the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your
Lockdown is
president,
okay. He
I
can
will
talk about
never
that
let
when he
the
gets to the
deep
other
state
stuff,
bureaucrats lock you down. You don't
Bro,
take
Ron
somebody
DeSantis
like
about to get shut
Fauci
down.
and coddle him.
Yeah.
You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you
No,
say,
he just went
you
to red
are
meat.
fired.
That's all he went to.
We, of course, we're paying too much for our energy in our state, right, in our country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from
There
the
you
Middle
go.
East,
They're just throwing in just
China, we're just
nonsense.
trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar panel, it's being produced in a plant in China powered by coal, or it's being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every farmer in this country would like to buy diesel at 20% off, just like they're buying it in China.
Delighted to be here tonight. And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have a conservative record in which I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor. I created a $2 billion surplus that I passed over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government. We have 14% fewer state employees in Arkansas after I left government than when I took over as governor.
Wow, they're talking about getting rid of people's
That's what we
employment.
need in Washington, D.C. We need somebody who can actually constrain the growth of the federal government, that can actually reduce the size, and I've pledged to reduce by 10%
Does that include the military and
our
industrial
federal
complex?
non-defense workforce. That's a
Non-defense.
specific
I guess
pledge
it
to
does
make
not.
that
Answer
attacks
my
the
question right
administrative
away.
state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business.
Oh,
but let
get
me
outta
tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being head
Can
of
we
the
get to the Ukraine part,
in
please?
Homeland security in
No, they're
times
not-
of
they're
crisis.
not done yet with their
And while
intros.
I
This is how
think
they do it.
That's experience that is important for the future of our country, to be the president of the United States that can lead with positive solutions to be held accountable.